Welcome to On the Call. I'm Jeff Rimmer, and a real treat today. Get to talk to a longtime friend and really not only an outstanding football analyst, but quite a fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And of course, we're speaking to the one and only Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk, first and foremost, how are you and your great family doing here under these trying circumstances?
Well, it's great to catch up with you, but been thinking about everybody back in Columbus and thinking about family and friends. We've been, like everybody else, just adjusting and trying to figure things out the best we can. I have two boys that are in college, and they're at Clemson, and they went back. You know, we were, as a family, quarantined for about middle of March, middle of April, middle of May, about probably 8 to 10 weeks. And then Jake and Ty went back to Clemson May 31. And I don't know if you saw the reports, but a lot of these college campuses, a lot of the football teams have been spiking quite a bit. And Clemson showed up with only 2 players that tested positive when they first got back together. And I think now they're around 30 or so. My boys tested negative, but their roommates tested positive, which now they are labeled as direct contact. And when you're labeled, I don't know if this applies everywhere, but I think in college football, when you're labeled a direct contact, they're quarantined now for 14 days themselves, even though they tested negative. And then they'll be tested again when they get done with that 14-day quarantine, and hopefully they'll still be negative. But as you know, from not just following sports, but in life with this virus, it's very contagious, and you get around people that have it, it's spreading like rapid fire. So as we're seeing.
Now, for your 2 boys there, the twins, we got a chance to see them, of course, playing at Clemson and being part of that run for the national championship. What's expected for them this year?
Well, they redshirted last year. They had a chance to participate in not just the home games, but they were able to travel out and be a part of pretty surreal moment for them in the semifinal game against Ohio State, a team that they grew up their whole life worshiping, and even to this day love the Buckeyes and look on the other side. And even though they weren't playing, it's still surreal to look and see those uniforms. And of course, that was a controversial game the way it ended. Then they went on, they were able to dress in a national title and came up short against LSU, but it was pretty cool for them in their first year to get these 2 rings that are, just massive. So that was cool. And now that they're with everything going on with the quarantine, and they missed spring ball as a team, I think they had just a handful of practices. Everything up to this point has been voluntary, much like the NHL, college football, just trying to figure things out. And it's kind of a ready, fire, aim situation with the rules of engagement seem to be changing daily and even hourly. And so we'll see. The boys have a lot of work to do as far as if everything were under normal circumstances. I think they feel at home. They really feel good about how they fit in. Dabo called me. We were talking about a number of things, and I'd really stay out of everything unless he brings something up. And at the end of the call, he just said, "Hey, I just want you to know, everybody is really fond of your boys because of the way they're trying to make a name for themselves. They never talk about who they are, and they just want to work and just kind of earn their own way. And all the players, the staff, everybody loves them." And so that made you feel – I wouldn't expect – knowing them, that's kind of what I would expect from them. But to hear Dabo see that and feel that, he has 2 boys of his own that are trying to do the same thing on the team. So things are good, man. I have another son that's a rising senior, and he's looking at maybe trying to go to Ohio State. We'll see if that is able to work out. So, and then I have an 8th grader as well. My youngest is Chase, and he also plays football. So we've had a lot of fun over the years.
I thought Chase was the hockey fan.
Loves hockey, as you know, still does. Devastated when the season was called. He's sitting there. All right, Dad. Well, we've played 3 more games, and I don't remember whoever it was. I can't remember. We're tied for 8th, or we're a point up, or whatever. There for a while as we were getting all those injuries. I say we, the Blue Jackets, we had all those injuries we were trying to navigate. I'm texting you like every night, is this guy coming back? Is this guy coming back? And we were just holding on for dear life in that like 6, 7, 8, 9 It was just a battle. It seems like every 2 or 3 days you could flip from one side to the other on it. And then, of course, the season ended up getting called for now, at least postponed. And so when we heard that there was going to be potentially a season, first thing we're finding out is how's this play for the Blue Jackets? Are they going to be in the playoffs? And we found out that, yeah, we're going to have a number of teams and on both sides, and they would be in. We were obviously elated.
Now, as I recall, Chase was quite concerned prior to the start of the season about the goaltending and the loss of Artemi Panarin, and you and I texting back and forth and talking about the goaltending. He had to be pleased with what first Korpisalo did, and then Elvis coming on, and you were asking me all kinds of questions in texts along the way about Elvis, and is he really that good? And what about, the story about him being the best goaltender outside the National Hockey League? So that was quite something for Chase to grasp.
First of all, you have to remember now, you'll have to remind me that Bob was a backup goalie when he first came over. And I can't remember who the starter was. You obviously know. And for whatever reason, Chase was probably in second or third grade. He loved Bobrovsky. Like, he loved Bob. He got a fat head of Bob when Bob wasn't even a star, and had it on. He's got Brutus the Buckeye and Joey Votto and Bob. And I'm like, Bob? Like, who's Bob? Like, what are you doing? Like, who's the starter when Bob first came over?
Steve Mason.
Yes. I'm like, why do you like this guy? And then he ends up becoming a freak. He was so good. I told you that Chase was so young, he didn't know any better. But in the Olympics, Bobrovsky was the Russian goalie. And we're up, I think we were skiing out at Deer Valley, up at like 3 or 4 in the morning watching USA. I forget the guy that at the end of the game, he kept going, because in the NHL you can only shoot in the shootout you can only have one guy, and once he shoots he's done. And in the Olympic rules, I guess you can have the same guy go over and over and over again.
Right.
I can't remember who it was, but he kept going for the USA, Team USA, and I'm rooting for USA, and Chase is rooting for Bob and for Russia. I'm like, Chase, what are you doing? But that's how much he just loved him so. And we'd come up every year. They were in the playoffs, and Bob became the star of the team, and Chase was ahead of the curve there, and he just worshipped him. And you were kind enough to, when we'd come to games, we'd come to the morning skate and have a chance to meet him and spend some time with him. And he gave him a stick one time at one of those morning skates, and Chase put that up on his wall. Yeah, he's loved him that's been his guy. So it was devastating for the Blue Jackets to lose him. And we were at his last game in the playoffs when he skated off the ice. And I said to Chase, that might be the last time that he's in that uniform, and he's crying. He's all upset about it. And then we lost him and Panarin. We were just like, oh my God, we're dead. And right away I got to go to my source, find out what's going on. Texted you, and you brought up Elvis somebody, and I was like, Elvis? Who's he play for? And you're like, best goalie outside of the NHL. And you're right. When Corpo went down and Elvis stepped up, I get a question for you, because how much is that those goalies are good, even Bob, and how much is that the system that they play?
That's a great question. And I've stated this to numerous people, and I'll give you the example here as well. So the Blue Jackets have a great defense. When you can look at Seth Jones, who plays a 200-foot game, the offensive Zach Werenski, Ryan Murray when he's healthy, best first pass on the hockey team out of the zone. And then you have David Savard, unsung hero, sacrifices the body, blocks shots, finishes checks. I mean, the Jackets' defense has really a lot to do with the success of the goaltenders. And to that end, and you can tell Chase this one, Sergei Bobrovsky. I got to be quite close to him the last year that he was here, and it was really after he knew he was moving on. But the guy that I was really close with was Artemi Panarin. And when Panarin first came in with the Rangers this season, he came to me and he said, Bob, not happy. Bob, not happy. I said, what's the problem? He says, too many 3-on-2s, too many 2-on-1s, too many odd man breaks. That wasn't the situation. That wasn't the situation previously playing for Columbus, the guys in front of them. And a lot of it is the defense, and a lot of it is the system that's been implemented by head coach John Tortorella. And you just have to look at last year's season sweep in the spring over Tampa. They shut down one of the best offenses in the National Hockey League, a team that won 62 games. There's the success. But Elvis started slowly. He made a big mistake, miscalculation. He signed the previous April, did not want to go play in the minors. They wanted, the Blue Jackets, for him to go play in Cleveland, learn the North American game, different ice surface, different size, different angles. Didn't do it. Had he gone, he might have won the starting job to start the season. But Korpisalo outplayed him. Korpisalo deservedly gets picked for the All-Star team, then goes down with that knee injury, and in steps Verzlikins, wins his first game against Bobrovsky New Year's Eve, and then goes to Vegas a few weeks later. Elvis in Vegas, how about that? And gets a shutout over the Golden Knights.
I know. It was so much fun to watch. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but all things equal, out of the two goalies that we currently have, who has the, like, NHL, not you, but NHL, guys that evaluate personnel, who do you think has the best skill set of the two goalies that we currently, forgetting system, just boom, 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 just flat out skills? Who's the better, like, more talented player?
I'd say, and I'm not
like you, but the NHL world, who do you think they think?
I personally would say that the better athlete is Elvis. The better goaltender from a physical standpoint and maybe technically might be Korpisalo. And we're in for, obviously, should we see the resumption of play, and I have every indication we will play and complete the season, I think it's going to be an interesting battle as to who the goaltender will be through the playoffs. I do not see the two goaltenders alternating. I think you might see one of them emerge as the number one goalie, the other one get, depending on how far the Blue Jackets go, get the majority of the work, and the other guy will probably fill in. But this remains to be seen. I'll tell you one thing, whether it's goaltending or any other position, John Tortorella will hold the hammer because there'll be 30 players on the roster. And if you're not performing up to capabilities, you'll be riding the pine or in your suit watching the game from the sidelines.
And I'll add to that, the most impressive thing to me was this team that was just littered with injuries. Somehow, well, I give Torts and his coaching staff and the players a lot of credit, but they just kept finding ways to win just enough games to just stay in that playoff picture. Now, if we end up seeing the playoffs, all these guys, most of them, I would think, or except for Anderson maybe, everyone else is healthy, right? I mean, it's a totally different team than what was just limping along there for the last month and a half, couple months of the end of what we saw in regulation.
Yeah, no question. Everybody's healthy. Atkinson was supposed to play the night we were scheduled to play Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, March the 12th. The game was called, as you know. We went into the pause, so he's 100%. You have Seth Jones, who's come back from surgery. Yeah. Bjorkstrand, who may have been the most valuable Blue Jacket this past season, and what a great finish he had, scored like 15 or 16 goals in his last 20-some-odd games. He's a prolific scorer. I think he learned a lot from Panarin. He's ready to take that next step. And then you've got that formidable blue line against they're playing Toronto. And Toronto's an explosive team. They can't get into a track meet and a high-scoring type game with them. And certainly the Blue Jackets aren't a high-scoring team by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be a defensive struggle. Goaltending will be a key. Obviously, that blue line will be a key. And they're going to have to get players like Foligno and Wenberg going offensively to chip in along with the likes of certainly the Bjorkstrands and the Atkinson. And I think the Blue Jackets can certainly, they can go a long way. This thing is wide open. Should we get the resumption of play?
Yeah. I think Torts is there for a while. Do you think he's enjoying Columbus? I mean, I love watching him. I love the way he coaches. I love his fiery personality. I think the team takes on some of his characteristics that I've watched him, over the years where he's been a coach at other franchises. I just love having him, handling the media after a game, good or bad. I just love the narrative that he controls.
Oh, absolutely. And I think he'll be there as long as he wants. He's helped change the culture, along with Jarmo Kekalainen coming in, John Davidson coming on as president of hockey operations, and really the guy that turned it around, John Tortorella. He certainly got away with players thinking that they were entitled to play and be the guy that's on the ice all the time in key situations. You had to earn your time on the ice, and I suggest that'll certainly be the case here in the playoffs.
Good. Yeah, I hope he's happy there. I hope he stays for a long time.
Well, he loves Columbus. He's got a couple of homes. He's involved, as you may or may not know, in rescuing pit bull dogs. He's now He's rescuing horses. He's got a big farm out in the suburbs. Loves Columbus. Loves the city. You cannot say a bad word about Columbus, otherwise he'll be right there at your throat.
I love it, man. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Now, I want to reverse. You had a chance to ask me some questions. I want to throw a couple at you. Do you think we're going to see college football?
I'm very optimistic that we're going to see some effort to have a season. I don't know. It's really changed. If you asked me that 3 weeks ago, I would have been like, man, I feel great. This thing is going in a great direction. But as we follow the virus and you follow the data and you watch the news, it's spiking all over the place, and I don't know if the protests have contributed to that, or it's just people out, not necessarily fearing the virus. You know how we can be as people. Sometimes we get really worried for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, and we kind of get over it and we just go back to the way we were living before. At least I've seen people myself doing that. And I think that laissez-faire attitude is really impacted these numbers. And I think people not necessarily still doing the whole social distancing and wearing a mask, and when you're out in public, has maybe had an impact. So I think it's very difficult. We don't have a Gary Bettman. We don't have a Roger Goodell in college football. You have the NCAA, which is really even not the governing body over college football. So you have to rely on the Power 5 conference commissioners. All the other conference commissioners, they all get on Zoom. They all get on the phone together every day. But, I'm near Clemson right now at a lake, and whatever the rules are in this area are different from what they are in Columbus. And whatever the rules are in Columbus, I'm talking about just for the citizens of that area, not the team, but the team has to respect and respond to whatever the rules are in Eugene, Oregon, Tallahassee, Austin, Tucson. I mean, it's just very, very different than just a czar commissioner saying, here's the deal, July 31, this is what we're doing. Like, you can't do that. And so I think because of that, it creates a lot of doubt, a lot of, maybe this team won't have a team this year. Maybe this school, I saw the Arizona president today said, right now, if we had to open up school, if we were making a decision right now, we would not be opening up school. And if you start seeing universities not open up for classes, then you can't allow football players to show up and go play football, right? So it's just right now, I'm still trying to stay optimistic, but there are signs and there are red flags, and we only can react as, you follow along with the data and the numbers go up or they come down. LSU has a bunch of players that have tested positive. I mentioned Clemson, Alabama. There are a number of teams that have a lot of players that are positive. So let's remain optimistic, but it's really an unknown at this point.
I have to ask you about your favorite baseball team. It now appears as if baseball will have a limited schedule this year. How are the Reds going to be?
Well, going into the season, we've had 6 straight losing seasons. And as a Reds fan my whole life, a bad year was a team that finished in second place. So you're spoiled if you're as old as I am and you grew up with the Big Red Machine. And even after the Big Red Machine, they had some great teams throughout the 90s. And you just kind of get used to that. And they have just sputtered. And to their credit, they really went out, made some moves. They strengthened their starting rotation. I think a lot of folks had them put up at. Let me make sure I'm still working. There we go. A lot of people had them up in the, I want to say top 3 or 4 in MLB as far as rotations are concerned. And so I was excited about that. They had a nice bullpen, and they're starting 8. They made some moves, brought in some guys that can hit for power. So going into the season, this is probably the most excited we've been as Reds fans about the potential of the team. But now with everything going on, you know, it's a guessing game. Who's going to come back ready to play? But you got to like when you look at the team on paper, even though it's only 60 games, I'm still excited just to see baseball and excited to see them hopefully compete and have a good year.
This brings back a lot of memories, Kirk. You and I together back in the day when I first came to Columbus, 2004, and doing those shows on 97.1 The Fan. There was a great time, great experience, and you've just done an outstanding job at ESPN. And I'm hopeful that you're going to get a chance to call some college football this year.
I appreciate it, man. 04. Is that when when you moved to Columbus?
2004, buddy. Well,
you are a breath of fresh air. I always love to listen to you and Jody. You guys do an amazing job. As you know, Chase and I, we don't miss a game. No matter where we are, we're plugged in. If I can't get it, if I'm at home, because I have DirecTV just so I can watch you guys, and then I have it on my phone. I have the NHL package on my phone. So one way or another, we're dialed in, and you guys makes us feel like we're still living in Columbus when we hear your guys' voices and watch the Blue Jackets. So we really appreciate that.
I love getting the texts and those questions. Just keep buddy. Just stay healthy to you and the family. Really appreciate your visit today, and don't be shy. Come back anytime.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. You and your wife stay healthy, and I'll be watching some Blue Jackets hockey really soon. Looking forward to it.
All right. Kirk Herbstreit of ESPN, and this has been On the Call. I'm Jeff Rimmer, presented by Byers.